Good day, grade 12s, as well as our respective educators. We met once more. I believe wherever you are doing well in this cold weather, but it doesn't matter how the weather is. At the end of the day, we are writing our June examination on the 1st of June. So we really have to ensure that at least we are preparing ourselves very well. Today, we are going to focus on debtors reconciliation as well as debtors age analysis. Basically, remember, in reconciliation, we have three of them. It's bank reconciliation, creditors reconciliation, as well as debtors reconciliation. But however, today, our focus will only be on debtors reconciliation. Why did I choose this topic? Is because this is the reconciliation that we once did in grade 10. But when you go to grade 11, it simply means you are no longer doing it anymore. You focus more on creditors as well as banks. So I wanted us to take back the year 2024, where we started doing this. So I think it's proper for us to go through it today as we are writing it on the 4th of June. So the first slide will be the prior knowledge. So in grade 10, we did the concepts around the debtors reconciliation together with some of the calculations. And then we also dealt with the debtors control account as well as debtors list. This is what we did in grade 10. We did those calculations. Now in grade 11, like I said, you don't do debtors reconciliation. You only start doing it again once you reach to grade 12. Now in grade 12, we will still focus on the concepts as well as the calculations, particularly around the debtors control account, where we need to calculate the correct balance, as well as the debtors list, where we need to also calculate the correct balance. And then the new thing that we are also going to focus on in grade 12, it will be a debtors age analysis. So this is what the prior knowledge that you already have from grade 10, but the new one that you're going to learn now in grade 12, it will be a debtors age analysis. And then when we move to the next slide, this represents what you need to know by the end of this lesson. So by the end of this lesson, you must know all the concepts that are related to debtors reconciliation. And then the second one would be how to calculate the correct balance of the debtors control account. Remember, you'll be given the not necessarily the wrong amount, but the amount that has omissions or errors. So after we have correct those omissions and errors, it means we will now start to have the correct debtors control account. So that will be what we are going to learn by the end of this lesson. And then the next one, it will be the correct balance of the debtors list. Remember, we can make an error as the business, or we can omit certain information on our individual debtors. So by the end of this lesson, you will definitely learn on how to do the correct balance of the debtors list. And then the other one, which I believe will be the last one. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to learn more of the debtors age analysis. How does it work? What is the purpose of it? And then at the same time, you are also going to be able to identify problems on the debtors age analysis, as well as to come up with the possible solutions that can be used by the business in order to have more control over debtors. So these are the 4 items that you need to know by the end of this session. Now, as we have highlighted, that we will start with the concepts. Now, the first one is debtors. We need to know who are the debtors in the business. Now, the debtors are the customers who buys on credit. So if a customer is allowed to buy on credit, that customer, we call it a debtor. But if there's more of them, then that will be a debtor. So in other words, it means they're going to owe us money because they bought goods on credit from the business, and they are going to pay us at the later stage. So that is the first concept that we need to know. And then the second one could be the credit sales. Like I said, when we define the debtors, we said they buy on credit. It means all the debtors, they determine how many credit sales we have. So the credit sale is a transaction whereby the customers are buying on credit. It means they don't have to pay immediately after they bought the goods. They just have to buy the goods now and pay at the later stage. So that is a credit sale, a transaction that happens between the business and the customers who buys on credit, like the word self, it says the credit sale. And then the next concept will be the invoice. Remember, we said the debtors, when they buy on credit, it means they don't pay. But remember, there must be a proof that there is a transaction that took place between the business and the customer. So basically, we need to give them something. Or whatever happens between the business and the customer, it must also be recorded. So the invoice will be a document that we are going to use to record the transaction that took place between the business and the customer. So the invoice will serve as a source document, will also serve as a proof that the transaction took place between the business and the customer. And that invoice must be recorded in the books of the business, as well as the one that must be given to the customer in case if the customer wants to return the goods. The only thing that we are going to request from the customer, it will be the invoice, just to see or to verify if the customer bought these goods from us as the business. And then the next one is going to be the debtors journal. As we have said that these invoices must be recorded. So every time when the customer buys on credit, there should be a subsidiary book that we are going to use to record those transactions. Now, the journal that will be used in that case, it will be a debtors journal. So a debtors journal is a journal that is used for all the credit sales that took place between the business and the customer. And then the next concept is going to be the credit worthy. Before you give credit to the customer, you must check the ability of the customer to pay back the money. Because remember, if you sell on credit, it simply means you are going to sell the stock and you're not going to receive money. But you are expecting that money at the later stage. Now, how will you know if the money will definitely come or not? It means now, before you give credit to the customer, you must now look for their credit worthy, which is the ability of the customer to pay. It is not only because of you know where they are staying, you must also check if they are able to pay you. And then once they are able to pay you, it means you can be able to give them a credit. So that is a credit worthy. And then the next concept is credit terms. The minute the customer buys on credit, they must know how long it will take them to pay back the money. So there should be a credit terms between you and the customer so that you determine the period of how long should take the customer to pay back that money. In normal circumstances, it should always be at least a minimum of 30 days or even less than that, so that you can be able to get that money back, so that you are able to pay to buy the stock and resell the stock again to the customer. So the credit term determines the period on how long will the customer pay or owe you as the business. So that is our concept, which is credit terms. And then secondly, we must also look at the credit limit. So remember, we said earlier, the credit worthy is the ability of the customer to pay. Now, that ability will now start to influence the credit limit. If, for example, a debtor earns 5,000 in his or her salary, let's say perhaps it's a net salary, it means you cannot give more than 5,000 to that particular debtor as a credit limit, because chances are the debtor might not be able to pay you back. Because remember, you're not the only one where the debtor must spend money. He or she has a family, he still has basic needs and so forth. So the credit limit will be determined by the ability of the customer. If the customer perhaps is earning 5,000, you might decide as the business to say, let's give him only 1,000 rand as a credit limit. And then as the customer goes by and pays more, then you can now say, let's increase the limit because now we see he or she is trustworthy or he or she has the ability to pay. So the credit limit determines how much does a debtor or a debtor is able to buy for. And then the next concept is going to be the credit history. Before you give credit to the customer again, you must also look at the credit history because it's important. If that debtor has a credit somewhere and the very same debtor did not pay all his credit in the different business than us, and then maybe he's struggling to pay those accounts, it simply means that even if you give this debtor a credit, he or she is also going to struggle to pay you. So by doing a credit history, you are putting a business in a better position to decide whether they give credit to this customer or not. So that is going to help you to see if the customer is also trustworthy. Are you able to trust the customer? Because remember, once you give goods on credit without money, it simply means there's a possibility that you might lose that money in case the debtor disappears or in case the debtor is no longer able to pay you back. So that is why it is important to check the credit history of the customer. Is the customer working good with other business? Is the customer able to pay his other debts before you can give the new one? So the credit history is very important for you before you give credit to the customer. And then now the next concept will be a debtor's allowance. Remember, a debtor is still a customer. If he or she is not happy with what they are buying from us, according to the law, they are allowed to return it. So when you talk about the debtor's allowance, we are referring to an allowance that the customer has if they are unhappy or dissatisfied with the product that they bought from us. So we can be able to give them that allowance. Some of them, when they settle the account, we also give them allowance of a discount to say, we are going to give you 5% discount or 3% discount. So those are the allowances that we normally give to the customer, and they are entitled to them because if you are not satisfied with the product, of course, you have to return them as long as they are in good condition so that they can be able to be sold to another customer. Even if when they are damaged, you can still return them back to the business because you are allowed. So that is our debtor's allowance. And then the next concept is debtor's control. Now, this is the account that we use to control all our debtors in the business. So basically, if we have 100 debtors, it means we must be able to have full control over them. So we use this account to record all the transactions that happen between the business and the debtors. So we use it to control all our debtors in the business, and we regard it as an asset account to the business because remember, debtors are asset. Why they are asset? It simply means they can be converted into cash, and the minute that they are owing us, it means we have full control over them. So therefore, once they are in the business, they must be able to be controlled. So we must be able to have a way on how do we control them, because the minute we are unable to control them, it simply means we are going to lose money from them. And then the next concept will be our debtors list. Now, in the debtors list, this is where now we identify them individually and we record them individually. Remember, in the debtors control, we bring all of them in one place, but in the debtors list, we are now trying to be specific to say, in the business, we have 5 debtors. The first one can be Dineo, the second one, Tabo, and so forth. So we need to list them so that we know amongst all these debtors who is actually paying us on time, amongst all this debtor who is supposed to be written off, amongst all these debtors who is supposed to be charged interest and so forth. So basically, we are dealing with them individually. So we are dealing with individual accounts. So in the debtors list, we list them individually so that we know how much each debtor owes us as the business. At the end of the day, when we combine them together, the balance that you are going to have on the debtors list must still be the same balance as our debtors control, because after all, in the debtors control is all of them, but in the debtors list, it's in all of them, but individually. So that is why we have to understand the difference between the debtors control as well as the debtors list. I believe that all the concepts are covered. Now, before I'm going to start with the activity, I will allow a few questions around the concepts. If maybe you guys need more clarity or anything that you are uncertain about with regard to the concept. So by show of hands, I'm ready to answer you, or I'm ready to elaborate more on the concept before we can start with our activity. So I'm giving a moment to you guys so that you ask questions based on the concepts. Okay, I assume that there are no questions around the concepts. All right, Mfundo Tuto, you can carry on with the question. Come again. Credit terms. Yes. All right. Can I take another question so that when I answer them, Ikaelelo Secondary School? Ikaelelo? Okay, while Ikaelelo is still busy, okay, Ikaelelo.
And
all right, the second question is around credit worthy. Any other questions? So that when I explain all of them, and then once we are done with the explanation, we now move to the activity. Any other question? Show hands. I request the school to mute if they are not asking questions, because it's disturbing other schools, and also on my side, I'm unable to hear other schools when they ask questions. Can I request that once you are not, if you are not asking any question, can you just keep on muting, and then as well as you want to ask question, then you will unmute again. Okay, let's carry on. I'm gonna start with a credit worthiness. The credit worthiness is to check the ability of the customer to pay. Remember, not everyone can be able to be given credit. Not everyone automatically qualifies for credit. If you want to have credit, you must be able to apply. And one of the requirements for you to be a successful applicant is only if you have a good credit worthy. Now, a good credit worthy means what? It means now you have the ability to pay back that money. If the business realizes that you are unable to pay them back, it simply means they cannot be able to give you credit anymore. So it helps the business to say, oh, this out of 10 customers, only 3 customers are able to pay. Therefore, only 3 customers will be given credit. So that is what we mean by the credit worthy. We focus on the ability of the customer to pay back the money. And then the second question was based on credit terms. Once you give a credit to the customer, there must be a terms and conditions between the business and the customer on how are they going to work together. One, the credit terms must be able to indicate when are you going to pay back the money. 2, the credit terms must also indicate how long it's going to take you as a customer to pay back the money. Like I said, it must be at least a minimum of 30 days. At least you must be able to take 30 days to collect that money from the customer. Because remember, if you don't collect within 30 days, it simply means the business won't have stock because you don't have money. But once you collect money from the debtors after 30 days, it simply means you are able to pay. So the credit terms specifically speaks more about the period, how long it will take the customer to pay back that money. I believe now we are all covered with both credit-worthy as well as credit terms. And then by show of hands, if you still need more clarity, you can do it by show of hands. If there is none, then I would like us to move to the first activity. Now, when you look at our activity here, we do have the activity 1 as well as the answer book. And I believe in your different schools, your educators manage to make copies for you so that as in when we do this activity, it becomes easy for us now to highlight this. But before I start with the activity, I want to highlight the 5 things that might happen between the business and the customer. The first one is going to be the credit sale. Remember, a customer is going to buy on credit from the business. So if the customer buys on credit, it means we must be able to issue an invoice as we have agreed. So it might happen that once they buy on credit, as the business, we omit or we record this invoice as an error. Perhaps maybe the invoice was 10,000 and then we recorded 1,000. So that could be the first error or omission that could be made by the business that will need us now to correct. And then number 2 is going to be, remember we said they buy on credit. At the later stage, they must do what? They must come and pay. So that will be a payment from the debtor or the customer. So once we receive a payment from the customer, it must also be recorded. So it might happen that we did not record it under debtors control or we did not record it under debtors list. If that is the case, then it should be recorded, or it might happen that it has been recorded by mistake. So if it's a mistake, then we can be able to correct it either on the debtors control or on the debtors list. And then item number 3 or transaction number 3 that can take place between the business and the customer is return. If it happens that a customer is not happy with what he or she bought from us, it means that customer is going to return. As we have highlighted on the concept to say, we need to allow them, that is debtors allowance. We need to allow them to return those goods. So if the return is not recorded, it means we are going to subtract on both debtors control as well as debtors list. But if the return was recorded by mistake, it means we are going to add on the debtors control as well as on the debtors list. And then in number 4, that can take place between the business and the customer. It can be what? A discount. Some of the customer will settle their account on time. If that is the case, maybe the policy of the business will allow those customers to be given a discount. And then once the discount, it is not recorded, it simply means we can take it to debtors control account or we can take it to the debtors list account. So that is a transaction number 4 that can take a place between the business as well as the customer. And then the transaction number 5 could be what? Could be the interest. If some customers are not paying us on time, remember we spoke about the credit terms. If we say we give them 30 days to pay, and then it happens that this debtor doesn't pay within 30 days, it means us as the business, we are allowed to charge that customer an interest. So if that interest is not recorded, it can be recorded on the debtors control as well as the debtors list. So these are the main 5 concepts or 5 transactions that can take place between the business as well as the customer. And then the last one is going to be a bad debt. Now we need to explain what is a bad debt. Remember, we said a debtor is a customer who buys on credit. So if it happens that this customer is unable to pay us, it means we have to write off this customer off. And then secondly, if we are unable to trace where the customer is, or maybe perhaps he's out of the country or he left the country, we still have to write him off because we are unable to trace him. Or if it happens that the customer died, sometimes the customer died and the customer doesn't have anything left for himself that we can use maybe to pay us back. So it simply means that customer debts must be written off. So when we write the customer off, it must also be recorded under debtors control as well as the debtors list. So these are the main transactions that can take place between the business and the customer. And once you understand them, it becomes easy for you to do a debtors control as well as the debtors list. Now, let me just do a summary again on all the concepts. Now, the invoice is when they buy on credit. It simply means if it's not recorded, we are going to add either on the debtors control or on the debtors list. But if it was recorded by mistake, we will have to subtract now, either on debtors control or on the debtors list. But with regard to the payment, it means once we receive a payment, we reduce the amount of money that a debtor owes to the business. So payment will represent minus or decrease if it is not recorded. But once it was recorded by mistake, we will have to add it back because we reduced the money by mistake. Therefore, we are trying to add it back. And then return means we have to reduce the amount of money that the debtors is owing us if it is not recorded. But if a return was recorded by mistake, it means we will have to add either on debtors control or on the debtors list. And then a discount means minus. It means we have to reduce the amount of money that a debtor is owing us. But if it is also recorded by mistake, we will have to add that amount that was recorded by mistake. With interest, like I said, if a debtor doesn't pay on time, we are going to charge this debtor an interest. This simply means the amount that he or she is owing us will definitely increase. But if the interest was also recorded by mistake, it means we have to subtract. And then the last one is bad debt. Once we decide to write off a debtor, it simply means we have to subtract because we are no longer going to receive that amount of money. So I believe now you understand all the transaction that possibly will take place between the business as well as the customer. So before I start with this activity, this is how we are going to work today. I'm not going to do the activity alone. I'm going to read a question, and then once I've read a question, I will allow any school to possibly give me a possible answer for that particular question. And then if it's correct, we will all agree. If there's a school that disagree, we will also be able to show us by show of hands so that at the end of the day, we all on the same page and we all understand what we are doing. In short, I'm trying to say the activity that we are going to do today, it will be the activity that will be covered by myself and you. I'm not going to do the activities, but I'm going to do the activity with you. Basically, you are the one who's going to do these activities. But before we start, I see a hand from Pikani Elias. Can you carry on with your question? Pikani?
Hello, sir.
Hello?
Could you please do the summary that you did in a T account?
Come again?
Could you please write the information that you have written in the form of a T account?
Which one?
The one
The
that
5 transactions.
yes.
How will we show them on the T account?
Like on which when in the creditors control, which one decreases, which one increases?
Okay, I hear you. All right, let's carry on with them. Let me just draw them on the board. So let's say this is our debtors control account. Debtors control. We all know that this is our asset account, therefore it increases this side and decreases on the credit side. Now let's see which one will increase now. The first one, like I've highlighted, it will be the invoice. Once the invoice is not recorded, it means it will come on the debit side. Why? Because we need to add the total amount of money that we are expecting to receive from the customer. And then, however, that will be the invoice. And then the second one that can also come on the debit side, it will be the interest. If it happens that we charge the interest to our customer, that will also be recorded on the debit side. So therefore, it will also increase our debtors control. And then now, what will decrease this account? Firstly, if we receive a payment from the debtors, that will definitely decrease the account. If the customer return the goods, that will also definitely decrease the account. If we give a discount to the customers, that will also decrease this account. So if we give an allowance to the customer as well, by allowing them to return the goods if they are not satisfied, that will also definitely decrease the debtors account. And then lastly, when we write them off as our bad debts, that will also decrease this account. I hope and believe that your question is covered. Are you covered? Was it Mpikani, or I'm no longer recalling the name well? Are you covered, Mpikani? Okay. Due to the silence, I assume that she is covered wherever she is. Guys, can you carry on now on the activity? I believe, like I said, all of us, we are having this activity in front of us as well as the answer book. Now, let me read the instructions. It says the following information was extracted from the accounting records of PNT dealers for May 2019. At the end of the month, the debtors control account and the debtors list could not be reconciled. As the internal auditor of Pinky Dealers, you were asked to help with the reconciliation process. Now, when you talk about reconciliation process, we can see that the balance on the debtors control account, it is not the same as the balance on, you can see this balance on the debtors control account is not the same as the balance of our debtors list. Therefore, it forces us now to reconcile. But what makes these balances not to be the same? Of course, it will be the errors or omissions made by the business. So once we take into account all the errors and omissions made by the business, it simply means now at the end of this day, this balance will definitely be equal. It means they are going to be the same. But how do we make them the same? It means we have to correct the errors. Now, also again, remember, if you were to come to debtors control account, it means when you read the errors or omissions there, they must never be as specific about a data. So this one, when we record on the debtors control account, we are recording individual debtors as well as the general information that has to do with debtors. So we bring it to the debtors control account. But when do we come to a debtors list? The minute we come to a debtors list, it means the information must be specific about a certain debtor. Hence, on your debtors list, you have Mary, you have Papers, you have Gordons, you have Daniels. So there's no way you can come to a debtors list if the name of the debtor was never mentioned on errors or omissions. Once the name has been mentioned, it simply means now you will start to come to our debtors list. Secondly, if they say debtors ledger, let's say they say something around debtors ledger. Debtors ledger, remember, is the specific debtor individual account. So we can also record information from the debtors ledger to our debtors list. But when do we go to the debtors control? If it says something about the journal or the general ledger, because remember, after we have prepared our journals, we must post information to the general ledger. So meaning from the debtors journal and debtors allowance journal, and the general journal, we take that information now to our debtors control. So that is why if they say information was never recorded on the debtors journal or debtors allowance journal, then we know that information must go to the debtors control account. But once they're being specific about a debtor, now we can now come to our debtors list. So and I think now you understand when do you go to debtors control, when do you go to debtors list. But like I said, we need to start with our activity. Now, the first instruction there says, calculate the correct balance on the debtors control account by using plus signs for increase and minus for a decrease, or zero for no effect. Now, let's start with that question first. Now, as we carry on with our activity, information A, we do have the balance of the debtors control, which has already been inserted for us. So we don't have to worry about that one. It has already been inserted for us. But when we go to the debtors list, you can see that we have different balances according to the debtors list. Now, all these different balances, they must now start to be recorded. As we can see, it says here, Mary has 3,800. So in brackets here, we must have 3,810 for Mary. And then for paper, we are going to have 4,790. 4,790. And then for Gordons, we are going to have 8340. And then the last one is going to be D. Daniels. We are going to have 2,690. Now we can go to the omissions. And then the first one says, P paper account must be written off as he cannot be traced. So I'm giving this question to you, any school that can tell us on which account are we going to record this one, either on debtors control, debtors list, or both of them. By show of hands, I'm going to pick schools who have answers for us. Anyone from any school? Where are we going to record the first one? If I don't see any hands, I'm assuming that all schools are, meaning they don't know where are we going to record it, then that's where I come in. But before I come in, I want to give each and every one of you the opportunity to tell me on where are we going to record this one. By a show of hands. Any school? All right, I assume that all the schools are not certain about this one. Okay, Ikaelelo Secondary School. Ikaelelo again. Where are we going to record it, Ikaelelo? On both accounts or on debtors control or debtors list? I did not hear your answer properly.
Both accounts.
Both accounts, correct. Are we going to add or are we going to subtract? That is my follow-up question.
We are going to subtract.
We are going to subtract, correct. That's true. We are going to subtract. Why? Because the account has been written off. So how much does a P paper owe us? A P paper owe us 4,790. On the debtors control, we are going to say minus 4,790, and then we go to his individual account, we still minus 4,709. The fact that we are writing him off, it simply means now the balance will be 0. Thank you so much, Ikaelelo. And then the second one is Roman 2. Can we please remove the check there? It's supposed to be an EFT, because remember, we are no longer using checks to make payments. We are now using EFTs to make payments. Can we all change check to an EFT? And then let me read the transaction so that we can now start to correct it. It says an EFT received from M. Mary for 1.5 was recorded correctly in the journal as well as the general ledger. I hope that you are quoting something there, or you are, I'm reminding you of something once I underline journal as well as the general ledger, meaning that information has been recorded somewhere, but was not posted to his personal account. Any school, where will we take this transaction, on both of them, or debtors control or debtors list? Any school? By show of hands. I assume that this is also a challenge for all the schools. By show of hands, where are we going to record this one? All right, if there are no schools, answers from any school, then I will carry on. Here it says this information was recorded on the journal as well as the general ledger. Remember, we said the debtors control has both journal as well as, all right, Ikaelelo again. Ikaelelo ya chisa, ne? Ikaelelo, where are we going to record the transaction? Okay, let's give Suunelo, because Ikaelelo, Suunelo, can you?
On the debtors list.
They already said it.
Can we give one person to speak at a time? Ne? If you are in the same school, allow one person to speak. Ne? I'm going to give back to Ikaelelo again. I saw a hand of Suunelo. They will come after Ikaelelo.
Debtors list.
Is that Ikaelelo?
Yes.
Okay, Ikaelelo says debtors list. And then what do you say, Suunelo? Do you agree or do you disagree?
I agree.
Oh, Suunelo agrees. No, good. That is the correct answer. Remember, we said the debtors control carries both journal as well as the general ledger. Now, as we read the transaction there, it says it was already recorded on the journal as well as the general ledger. So on the debtors control, there will not be any effect. So it will be 0. But now on the debtors list, we must go to a specific data, which is Mary. But from Mary, what did we receive? Remember, guys, when we receive an EFT, it simply means Mary has paid us. So when we go to Mary, we are going to say minus 1.5, because we have to decrease the amount that he or she owes us as the business. All right, then the next one. The total of the sales column in the debtors journal was overstated by 2,210. Any school? Where do we go? You said it is going to affect the debtors control, but my question is how? Positively or negatively? because you are indeed correct. It is going to affect the debtors control. But now we need to know positively or negatively. Kalabocha? Negatively. Negatively.
Yes.
Mutia, are you disagreeing or you agreeing with Kalabocha? We don't hear anything from Mutia. I think Kalabocha is right. We are going to go to debtors control. And when we get to debtors control, we are going to say minus 2,210. And let's explain the word overstated. This means that amount has been recorded more with 2,210. Hence, we are decreasing. And if we can remember one of the GAP principles, it normally says no amount should be overstated or understated on the financial statements or in the books of the business. Now, the fact that this amount was overstated according to the prudence concept, now we must be able to reduce that amount. So thank you so much, Kalaboche. You are indeed correct. And then Roman 4, it says the total of the debtors allowance journal was understated by 280. Any school, where do we go? Any school? Where are we going to record this one? In the absence of any answer from any school, I will take it upon by myself. Now let's remind Ikaelelo. Ikaelelo, over to you.
Debtors control.
Debtors control. Debtors control. All right, Ikaelelo, thank you so much. Who disagree with Ikaelelo? Anyone who disagree with Ikaelelo? Sihunelo Secondary, are you disagreeing with Ikaelelo or you agree?
We disagree.
So where are we going to take it?
Both.
Both.
Yes.
Now we are having two answers. One says debtors control, one says both. So now I have to come in. Now let me come in. The correct answer is debtors control, which is Ikaelelo. But before I explain further, I want to ask Ikaelelo whether we are going to increase with 280 or are we going to decrease with 280? Ikaelelo, over to you.
Decrease.
We are going to decrease. Indeed, let me explain now to Suhunelo why do we have to decrease and why do we have to go to debtors control. You still remember it says the total of the debtors allowance journal. There is no specific name of a debtor. Remember when we go to the debtors list, at least we must have the name of the debtor so that at least we know where are we going to record this amount. So when you look at Roman 4, it doesn't have any specific name of a debtor. Hence, we have to take it to the debtors control where we generalize all the debtors. So that is why it must go to the debtors control. Now, number 2, why are we subtracting? We are subtracting because of the word understated. The word understated means a shortage. Remember what is debtors allowance? Is when the customer returns. And when they return, we normally decrease the amount that they are owing to us. So therefore, the amount that was supposed to be decreased was the amount that was understated. Means there's a shortage of 280 that was supposed to be subtracted. So therefore, now that we are correcting this error, we go to debtors control and then we subtract 280 so that it can be equal to the amount that was originally supposed to be subtracted. So I believe, Suhunelo, you are covered. All right. The next one says the Daniels returned good to the value of 1,110, but the bookkeeper incorrectly treated this as a credit sale and posted it accordingly. Any school, where are we going to record Roman 5? Any school? Ikaelelo, Ikaelelo ya tshisa yo. I'm wondering what is happening with the other schools, but it's fine. We'll get there, I know. Ikaelelo, where are we going to record this one?
We are going to add both.
Ikaelelo says it will be recorded on both debtors control as well as debtors list. Anyone who disagree with Ikaelelo? Kalabocha, I see your hand. Do you agree with Ikaelelo or do you disagree?
I agree.
Correct. Now, Kalabocha, I want you to tell me which sign are we going to use? Are we going to subtract or are we going to add? I see the hand of Suhunelo. Before you answer Kalabocha, can we give Suhunelo a chance whether they agree or disagree as well?
We disagree, sir.
Or Suhunelo disagree, but
Because-
however, okay, you can carry on with your
Because
reasoning.
we have to deduct twice on D. Daniels.
So meaning you are simply saying it should only affect the debtors list.
Yes.
All right. Kalabocha and Ikaelelo, you are correct. It has to affect both debtors control as well as debtors list. But now, I'm going to explain further to Suhunelo why do we have to subtract on both. But before I carry on that, I want to ask you, which sign are we going to use? Are we going to subtract the amount or are we going to add the amount on both debtors control and debtors list? This is for Ikaelelo and Kalabocha. Suhunelo, just hold on for a moment. I just want the answers first from Ikaelelo and Kalabocha to confirm whether we are going to add or subtract the amount. I'm going to come back to you to show you why do we also go to debtors control, because you said we are only going to a debtors list. So Ikaelelo or Kalabocha, can you give us the answer? Are we going to add or subtract the amount on both or what? Ikaelelo?
We are going to subtract.
We are going to subtract, correct. Kalabocha, are we going to subtract the amount once or twice?
We are going to subtract both or twice.
So we are going to subtract both, and then that 1,100, are we going to subtract it once on both, or we are going to subtract it twice on both?
We are going to
Kalabocha?
subtract it twice.
Correct. Now let us explain to Suhunelo. Suhunelo, you are right. We have to go to a debtors list, and then when we get to debtors list, can we mute, guys? Okay, thank you. Suhunelo, you are right. We have to go to a debtors list. When we get to debtors list, we are indeed going to subtract the amount as we have highlighted. So this part, it is correct. But however, when we go to the debtors control, we still have to subtract again the amount twice. But in the debtors control, this is how we can do it. We can just say 1.1 times 2, and then it gives us minus 2,220. Because we remember we only have one space there, which is one column. So it will be more advisable if you multiply them in brackets and then you just subtract both amount. And then why did we go to the debtors control? Because Suhunelo was thinking that we only have to go to the debtors list. When you read the information, it says the bookkeeper incorrectly treated this as a credit sale. Now remember, the bookkeeper is responsible to do what? To do both debtors control as well as the debtors list. So meaning that mistake was done on both accounts. So hence we are correcting the mistake on both accounts. I believe, Suunelo, you are covered. And then the next one is Roman 6. It says goods were sold on credit to G. Gordon for 2,440. And this was entered correctly in the journal and the general ledger, but was posted to his account as 2,040. Any school, where are we going to record this transaction? Any school? Ikaelelo? I think I must bring sweets to Ikaelelo next weekend. Ikaelelo, over to you.
Debtors list.
Ikaelelo says debtors list. Piello, do you agree or disagree with Ikaelelo? We agree. Piello agree. Tepo Emmanuel, do you agree or disagree with Ikaelelo?
We did not hear what is the answer for Igalelo, sir.
The answer for Ikaelelo is says it is going to affect the debtors list. So anyone disagree with Ikaelelo? Or you agree with Ikaelelo? You agree?
Yes.
All right. No, thank you so much. This simply means no one disagree with Ikaelelo. Of course, Ikaelelo is correct. But however, I want to know now from all of you again, are we going to add the amount or are we going to subtract? Anyone from any school? Siunelo?
We're going to add 400.
As Siunelo says, we are going to add 400. I was going to ask the question, okay, now which amount is going to be added? That is correct. We need to add, but now my question is, which amount are we going to add? Are we going to add 2,440? Are we going to add 2,040? Are we going to add the difference? And then the difference, like Siunelo have said, is 400. So are we going to add 400 or 2,040 or 2,400? That is my question, Siunelo. Which one are we going to add?
400.
400. That's correct. That's correct. Why are we not able to go to come again? Samuel Johnson, I see your hand. Do you disagree with 400 or do you agree with 400? Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson, do you agree with 400 or do you disagree? All right, in the absence of Samuel Johnson, let's Siunelo, can you assist us? How did you arrive to 400? Because in the question there, we don't see 400.
We were going to say 2,440 minus.
Please wait for me. 2,440, all right, and?
Minus 2,040.
Minus 2,040, which will add up to 400. Correct.
Yes.
That is correct. So it means now when we go to the debtors control account, we are going to have 0, which indicate there is no effect. Why? Because the information has been recorded in the journal as well as the general ledger. But however, we still have to go to G. Gordon's and then we are going to say plus 400 because whatever that he bought from us, it was understated by 400, or in fact, incorrectly recorded remaining amount of 400. Now, Roman, is it 6 or 7? I think it's 7 now. Can we also change this check into EFT again? Remember, I explained earlier to say we are no longer using checks. We are now using the EFTs. Now, can we just correct it there to make it an EFT? And then the transaction read as follows. It says an EFT for 600, which was received from D. Daniels, has been dishonored. Meaning dishonored means D. Daniels have insufficient funds in his bank account. So now when you have insufficient funds, it simply means the payment won't go through, and then your account will definitely be dishonored in that manner. And then he had been allowed to a discount of 30 on this payment. And then it says here, no entries were done. Any school, where are we going to record this transaction? Any school? Oh, I see this one is a difficult one. Tepo, followed by Ikaelelo, but let me start with Tepo. Tepo, where are we going to record it? Both of the accounts, or debtors control or debtors list. Tepo? Okay, PL, let's go to Ikaelelo. Where are we going to record it? Ikaelelo says both. I saw you, Siunelo. Do you agree? Do you agree, Siunelo, or disagree?
Yes, yes, we agree.
Siunelo agrees.
Yes,
Are we
he's
going
going to
to-
enter on both.
Are we going to add it, Siunelo, or are we going to subtract whatever
add.
amount? We
We're
are
gonna
going
add
to
600.
add. Are we going to add 600 or 30 or both amounts?
Both amount.
It means we are going to say 600 plus 30, which will add up to 630.
630.
Can you explain to us, Sunelo, why are we supposed to add while they say we received a payment from D. Daniels?
Because dishonored check, it means that we didn't get the money.
Perfect. It means that yes, the debtor has paid us. But when we go to the bank, it seems like the debtor does not have enough money to pay us. So therefore, remember, by the time he pays us, we subtracted this amount because it was a payment. But now that we realize that a debtor does not have money, it simply means what should we do now? We should now add back what has been subtracted. So we are going to say plus 630 on the debtors control account, and then we go to D. Daniels, and then we say plus 600, which is the amount, plus 30 rand, which was the discount that was also given to the customer. Remember, 600 was the amount that he was owing us, and then 30 rand was a discount that we give to a debtor because maybe perhaps the debtor was settling the account, but unfortunately, a debtor has insufficient funds. Now we are done with all the errors and omissions. Now what we need to do now is to calculate the correct balance now for our debtors control. And how are we going to do it now? We are going to take the balance that we have there. Let me just go back to our slides. We are going to start with the balance that is given to us, which is 21,020. And then all the negative amounts will be subtracted while the positive amount will be added. So let's do the calculation now. It's going to be 21,020 minus 4790 plus 0 minus 2210 minus 280 minus 2220 plus 0 minus plus 630. I believe it must add up to how much? Any school? It must be how much? Sunelo? Samuel Johnson.
150.
12,150. Do you agree, Samuel Johnson? Samuel Johnson, do you agree? I saw your hand. All right. Let's carry on now. Do we agree that the balance that we got on the debtors control, it must be the same as the balance on the debtors list? You remember I explained earlier on the concept, but let's see if that is going to be the case. Now, when we get to the debtors list, all we can think of now is to close the bracket. So we'll start with M. Mary. We close the bracket and then we do the calculations. We say 3810 minus 1.5. That will add up to 2,310. And if you disagree, I will see by show of hands. And then with P paper, we written him off or her off. That is why the balance is 0. But when we go to G Gordon's, it means we are going to say 8340 plus 400, which will add up to 8740. And then the last one is D Daniels. We are going to say 2690 minus 1110 minus 1110 plus 600 plus 30. And then when you close the bracket, the balance must be 1,100. And then once we have all the balances, now we must add all the amounts again. And then when we add all the amounts again, how much will it be? Any school? When we add all the balances, how much are we going to have, Sunelo?
12,150.
12,150. You see now is the same as the balance on our debtors control. If this is the case, this simply means your debtors control, in fact, your debtors reconciliation is 100% correct. So this is what should happen every time when you do a debtors reconciliation. It means your debtors control account must always balance with your debtors list. And I believe that this is what we have done in our schools. And then I believe that at least today you have learned something again, if perhaps you missed in the classroom. So as we carry on to the next activity, I will continue with 5.3 again. It says here, I think it's 1.3 on you guys because I corrected it. But even if it appears as 5.3, it's still the same question. It says now, mention 2 measures that should be implemented by the business before they can grant credit to the customer. You remember we spoke about the credit worthiness. We said that is the ability of the customer to pay back. Now, how do you test that? It means before you grant any credit, you must test the ability. So there are a number of things that you can request from the customer so that you are able to give that to, okay, so I want to answer. I thought I was going to do it for you guys, but however, if you have answers, you can just raise up your hand by showing of hands, and then I will still take answers from you. Sunelo, I saw your hand. What should you implement by the business before they can grant credit? What should they do? Sunelo?
They can check their payslip and they can check their credit history.
The first one, they can check their credits, the credit history, which is very important so that you know or you are able to trust the customer. That is correct, Sunelo. The second one, we can talk about the salary advice, or we can talk about the pay slip Or we can talk about a proof of income, because remember, some people are not working, they are self-employed. So they can also produce the proof of their income so that we can see whether they have money or they have the ability to pay. And then once we are able to identify that, we can be able to grant them the credit. Anyone again from any school, what more can we look for from the customer before we can grant the credit? Any school, Ikaelelo?
Also check their credit worthy.
We can also check their credit worthy. Remember, when we look at the proof of income or when we look at salary advices or pay slip, we are actually trying to identify the credit worthy. Ne? But thank you so much, Ikaelelo. Any school? What more can we give? All right, in the absence of any, I'm going to give you more ne, on the question. What we can also request is the proof of residence. Remember, you must know where they are staying. In case if they are unable to pay you, you know where to find them. And then Suhunelo, I see your hand.
We can check the affordability.
Affordability as well. Remember, you spoke about the salary advice. Ne? When you spoke about the salary advice, it simply means you're going to check their affordability or proof of income, whether they are going to be able to pay. The reason why I'm trying to elaborate is because I don't want you guys to give the same answer. That's that you are just changing the wording. Ne? When you talk about the salary advice, it means on the salary advice, we are going to check their ability to pay. So it's still more or less the same as the credit worthy. So it's either you say credit worthy or you say a salary. Because once you give 2-3 points that say the same thing, you are going to end up losing marks. Ne? That is why when you give an answer, I'm trying to show you that when you speak about salary slip, proof of income, you are actually talking about the credit worthy. Because remember, we said credit worthy is the ability to pay. So where can we see if you are able to pay? We need to see your proof of income, we need to see your salary advice, or we need to see your pay slip. So I believe now you understand, guys. Or we can even request a bank statement, because in the bank statement, we are able to see how much money comes in and how much money do you spend. So in that way, it can tell us if we have the ability to pay. And then what more can we request, guys? I think we can also request the contact details of a family or friends in case if we are unable to get the customer on his or her cell phone, so that we are able to reach him. And then what we can also request is the identity document, so that we know this person is actually from South Africa, or this person maybe comes from the other country. If that is the case, then we'll request more documents from that particular data. And then another thing that we can also do as the business is to check the credit reference, which can also be credit history as well, where we check if this customer has more debts, is he or she paying them on time? Is he or she respecting the credit terms of those credit, and so forth. And then lastly, we can also request the email address, because these days we are no longer sending post. We normally email the statement to the customer. We normally email maybe promotions to the customer, and so forth. So those are the things that we can be able to request from our customer. And then the last question says, name 2 ways in which you can encourage debtors to pay their account on time. If you remember, we said if they don't pay on time, we charge them interest. Now, what can we do to prevent such? Any school, what can we do to ensure that our customers are paying on time? Because remember, if they don't pay on time, it means we don't have money to buy another stock, because we gave them stock on credit. So meaning right now we are left with no money, so we are unable to replace the stock. So we must ensure that they pay on time so that we have that money to buy another stock. So what can we do, guys? Any school? Ismail Tab.
You send them reminder.
We can send reminder, but your question, your answer is not clear. How do we send reminders? What do we do? Or what can we use to send those reminders? Can you elaborate more on your answer? Because I'm afraid that you're going to say send reminders. Can you elaborate more, Ishmael? How are we going to do that process of sending the reminders?
We send a statement of account earlier so that we encourage.
Okay. All right. We can send the statement of account as a reminder. What more can we do? We can send them SMSs as a reminder. What more can we do? We can send emails as a reminder. What more can we do?
We can also offer them discount if they pay earlier than the normal date. Maybe before the 25th, we encourage them by giving them the discount.
Okay, you are giving me another point. Remember, we're still on the first point, but thank you so much. We're still on the first point of the reminder. Ne? What we can also do as a reminder, we can also call them. Ne? It is important. We can call them to say, guys, you still remember that you have to pay on this day. So it will depend on which method are you going to use as the base. Those are the methods that we can use as a reminder. But thank you so much again that you said we can also offer them an early payment discount. Ne? So they will definitely take it as an advantage, and then they will definitely pay us on time, because they know if they pay on time, it means they are also gaining something from the business. That will be our second point. And then another one, any school, what can we do to encourage the customer to pay on time? Any school? Any school? All right, now let's move. Guys, I'm going to do activity 2 on the debtors reconciliation. But before I do it, I want us to go to a question that is based on debtors age analysis, so that by the end of our lesson today, at least we have covered both of them, because the method that I'm using today, I'm doing it with you, so it will definitely take some time, but I want to ensure that at least by the end of this lesson, we have covered both the items under the objective, that you know how to do a debtors reconciliation, and you also know how to do a debtors age analysis. Now, I'm going to go straight to activity 5, and activity 4, and then immediately after it, we'll go back again to activity 2, which will still cover our debtors reconciliation. Now, on activity 4 here, we are referring to debtors age analysis, but this one, I'm going to do it with you in the interest of time, so that we are able to understand it thoroughly or better, because remember I said this is what you normally do in grade 12. Now, first of all, I must explain what is a debtors age analysis, or why do we use it as the business. Now it means I'm going to answer the first question. Ne? I'm going to answer the first question. The first question says, explain how debtors age analysis can assist with internal control over debtors. Point number 1, how will it assist us? It is going to tell us about the debtors who have exceeded their credit terms. You still remember we spoke about the credit terms earlier to say this is the period on which debtors are expected to pay. When we make a practical example in this activity, it says it must take debtors up to 30 days to do what? To settle their account. So it means when we do a debtors age analysis, we are able to identify how many debtors have exceeded their credit terms. That is point number 1. That's how it can be able to assist us as the business. Point number 2, it is also going to show us which debtors has exceeded their credit limit. Let me make it a practical example. When you go to the tables here on debtors age analysis, you can see that there is a column for credit limit. And then when we go to D Pillay, his or her credit limit is 10,000. But look at how much does he or she owe us. She is owing us 11,800. We can see that she is beyond the credit limit. So meaning with debtors age analysis, we are able to identify which debtors are going to exceed their credit limit or which debtors are still within their credit limit. When you look at Z-Khosi, his credit limit is 2,800, but however, he only owes us 2,550. It simply means that Z-Ngozi, he or she is still within the credit limit. But when you go to D Pillay, he is owing us 11,800 while the credit limit was 10,000. So this simply means now we are able to say, oh, D Pillay has actually exceeded his credit limit. So it means by doing a debtors age analysis, we are also able to identify whose debtors have exceeded their credit limit. Then point number 3, we are also going to look at the slow payers. In other words, who takes more time to pay us the money. When you go to W. Patel, we are only receiving money from him after 60 days, even after 90 days as well. That simply means this debtor, of course, he does pay us, but he is a slow payer. It simply means this debtor takes time to pay us as the business, and that is going to affect his credit limit. That is also going to affect slow payer. That is also going to affect us in terms of giving him more credit, or that is also going to affect his credit limit. So maybe it can help us to do what? To reduce his credit limit because he is not paying us on time. He is a slow payer. Secondly, this is a debtor where we need to do what? Where we need to charge the interest so that we can be able to make more money out of that debtor because he is a slow payer. And then another one, when you look at even W. Patel, you see he still takes up to 90 days to pay us. Meaning if he can take beyond that, we will have to do what now? To write him off as a bad debt, and that is going to be a loss to the business. But however, the debtors age analysis is going to show us which debtors must be written off as we are no longer receiving a payment from them. So those are the main 4 points that we can use or on how the debtors age analysis can be of assistance. Any questions on the first question? Any questions? All right, I believe it is clear. Now 4.2 says calculate the percentage of the total debt exceeding the credit terms. I'm going to highlight the word credit terms. Why? Because that is the one that is going to guide you on how to do the calculation. Example, remember at the top there, they said it takes the customer how many days? 30 days to pay. So it means any customer who pays us after 30 days, that customer is actually exceeding his credit terms. But now we need to calculate the percentage. When you go to a debtors age analysis, we can see that 30 days is within the credit terms, which is actually correct. But anything from 60 days to 90 days, it simply means that is going to exceed our credit terms. And when you look at the total amount at the bottom there, for 60 days, we have 14,500. That will be our 4.2. This is 4.1. So And then plus in 90 days, we still have, oh, that is 14,560. And then in 90 days, we have 2080. So meaning this is the amount of money that we get that is beyond the credit terms. And then we are going to divide it by the total amount that the customer are owing us. When you go to the table there, this is the 100% amount that the customers are owing us. So therefore, this is the total amount that we must receive or expecting to receive from the customer. So we will divide with it 41,600. Because we are looking for the percentage, it simply means at the end, we must multiply everything by 1. And then any school that can give us the answer. Can you do the calculation and give us the answer? How much percentage of debtors who have exceeded their credit terms? Any school? Ikaelelo?
40%.
Ikaelelo says 40%. Any school who disagree with Ikaelelo or agrees with Ikaelelo? Samuel Johnson, do you agree with Ikaelelo or disagree? Do you agree or disagree? Samuel? Any school? Okay, thank you so much. It means all the schools now we agree with 40%. So it simply means 40% of the debtors are exceeding the credit terms. Now 4.3 says, explain one problem with figures. Once it says with figures, guys, it simply means you must be able to identify the amount. It can be the amount, it can be the days. Ne? It is not only focusing on the amount, but it can also focus on the days, particularly if the problem is credit terms, then it simply means we must now start to code the days. But if the problem is the credit limit, of course, we will have to code now the amount. So it is very important that you don't just identify the problem, but you also show the figures to support the problem that you have identified. Now, let me go to 4.3 now. It says, explain one problem with figures relating to each of the following. The first problem that we can identify to DPLA. Any school? What is the problem that we are going to identify? Remember when I was explaining the debtors age analysis, I was actually trying to explain the problems that can be addressed by the debtors age analysis. Ikaelelo? What is the problem that we have identified with DPLA? Ikaelelo?
Yes, exceeded his credit limit.
Correct. It means DPLA has exceeded his credit limit. Ne? But remember, the question said with figures. So now you must indicate by how much. Ikaelelo, back to you again. By how much did they exceed their credit limit?
By 1.8.
By 1,800. Can you tell us how did we arrive to 1,800?
Sir, from the credit limit there, we have taken
Credit limit.
10,000.
The credit limit is
10,000.
10,000. Okay. And then?
Minus 11,800.
So basically, we're going to say the amount that he is owing, which is 11,800, minus 10,000, which is the credit limit. So therefore, he has exceeded the credit limit with 1.8. Correct, Ikaelelo. And then the second one, W. Patel. What do you think is the problem with W. Patel? Any school? Any school? What do you think is going to be the Professionelo?
Say DPLA exceeded his credit limit by 1,800, and he also had 9,820 in the 30-day column, meaning he's late paying, and that's a risk of debit if it's not followed up. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you so much. You are right, but however, the question was on W. Patel. Can you please identify the problem that you see with W. Patel? We can still give it to Nelo or any school. Ikaelelo?
As W. Patel has exceeded his credit terms.
Correct. The problem that we are identifying with W. Patel is that he has exceeded his credit terms. Why are we saying that? Remember, the credit terms is 30 days, but we can only receive our money from that particular data after 60 to 90 days. So meaning the problem is credit terms, and then the figure will be 60 to 90 days. That means we can only receive our money during that period. But remember, like I said, you identify the problem together with the figures. So the figures in this case will be 60 to 90 days. All right, thank you so much, guys. Let's go to 1.3.4, which says explain two problems with figures relating to debtor D goals or gowns. So let's go to that data and let's identify two problems. Any school? Any school? Which problems have we identified around a debtor D goals, kappa goals? Anyone? Ikaelelo?
Goins has exceeded his credit terms.
Problem number one, he has exceeded credit terms. What will be the figure? 60 days. The figure will be 60 days. That's problem number one. Now let's identify the second problem. What is going to be the second problem now? What is the second problem with regard to D gowns? Any school? Okay, the second problem with regard to D gowns, it will be, remember, this data is expected to pay us within 30 days. But as we can see, we are only receiving money after 60 days. What does that mean? It simply means D gowns is what? Is a slow payer, because only 5,448 was received after 60 days. So it simply means that person is a slow payer. And then secondly, he has exceeded his credit terms, but current month, we still sell on credit to him, even though he has exceeded his credit term. So this simply means it is not good for the business to continue selling to the same person who doesn't even pay us on times. So it was a wrong decision of us as the business to allow the customer to continue buying on credit while the customer does not pay us on time. Before I move to another activity of debtors reconciliation, any questions on debtors age analysis of with regard to activity 4? Any questions by show of hands? In the absence of any, let us go back to activity 2. In activity 2, we still continue with our creditors reconciliation, and then in the debtors reconciliation. Now we have the questions as well as the answer book, of which I believe you do have this question in front of you, and then you also have this type of an answer book. Now let's read the instruction and let's do the question. Now, first of all, it says the bookkeeper Taylor Boutique presented you with the debtors control balance and the debtors list for May 2026, 2.1 show the adjustment that must be made to correct the debtors control account in the general
So
ledger
this
by showing the amount. Can we mute, guys? Can you mute? You can only unmute when you ask the question. But if that is the question, can you ask it so that I can address it?
yes, about the previous thing, activity, yes,
Come again?
about the previous activity, like that amount that are owing, they are supposed to pay it in like that 30 days, they're supposed to pay the whole amount or what?
In the previous one, you refer to that as activity 4. Are you referring to activity 4?
Yes, yes.
Okay, on activity 4, what is your question?
That amount those people are owing, are they supposed to pay all of it in that period of 30 days or what?
No. If a debtor is owing us 11,800, for an example, expectation is on 30 days, we must be able to receive at least a certain amount of money. That will differ according to the business on how much they calculate it. But it doesn't mean whatever the amount that person is owing must be paid in that particular month, all of it. But a certain portion of that money must be paid back after 30 days. So that will also depend on the business, on how much are they going to charge interest on and how much are they going to take on a monthly basis. That is also determined by credit terms. For example, if you are owing us, can you mute? If you are owing us, let's say 12,000. If we divide 12 and then you are saying we are going to pay it within 12 months, that is a credit term or a period. It means every month you must give us 1,000. But that cannot only be 1,000 because remember, we have to add interest because we are buying on credit. So it might be 1,000 something, but the amount of money that must be paid is determined by the period that our credit terms says. If it says you must pay within 12 months, whatever that you are owing us, then you will divide the amount with 12 plus interest. So per month, it will determine on how much are you going to pay. So it's not necessarily to say if a debtor owes us 11,000, after 30 days, the debtor must pay us 30,000. No. But if a debtor has it, then a debtor can pay us. It will still be good for the business and also the records of the very same debtor. I hope your question is covered. All right. Guys, remember, if you ask a question, you can unmute, but as soon as your answer, I'm going to answer your question, then you mute so that at least the noise at the background, it doesn't disturb us or any other schools as well. So when you ask the question, you can unmute, but immediately if there are no questions, we always mute, guys. Remember that. Let's continue now with our question. Let's go to the information. On 31st May 2026, the balance on the debtors control account in the general ledger was 21,900. We can see it, guys. It's 21,900. And then our debtors list on 31st May, as provided by the bookkeeper on the debit side is 25,800. On the credit side is 1,550. So this simply means we can see that that balance is not the same as the one that we see on the debtors control. So therefore, we have to do our debtors reconciliation. Now, the first one goes as follows. But before I go to the errors and omissions, we have information B there, where all our debtors has been identified and listed with their balances. Now, the first one is PPT. We can see that the balance is 5,100 that we must insert. And then the second one is M Tola. The balance there is 8,400. And then the third one is Pika Vendor. You see, there is funny thing about Pika Vendor. He's not the same as other debtors. His balance now is on the credit side. What does that mean? It simply means that debtor has overpaid. In this case, as the business, we are owing. So his balance will now be a negative. So it's going to be minus 1,550. And then now we go to A brand. A brand, his balance is on the debit side. Therefore, it will be 11,300. So before you go to errors and omissions, you should always start by inserting your balances if they are not inserted on the answer book. Now let's go to the activity. Now I think this one, it will be a little bit more faster because at least now we understand what we are doing. But I will still take the opportunity to allow you guys to give me the answers on which will we go, on the debtors list or on the debtors control account. So the first error goes as follows. The total of the May 2026 debtors journal was overcast by 1750. Any school, where do we go? Debtors control, debtors list, or both? Any school? Siunelo? Please unmute and give the answer, Siunelo.
It's 1,100 on minus 1,100 on corrections to on debtors control.
Minus
So it's going to affect
1,150.
It's going to affect debtors control positively or negatively? Positively or negatively, Siunelo?
Negatively.
Negatively, correct. We are going to go to the debtors control, and then we are going to say minus 1750. Why? Because they say the amount was overcast. So meaning we recorded more, therefore we are supposed to subtract. The second one, interest of 375 must still be charged on the overdue account of M-Toller. Anyone, any school? Siunelo again. Siunelo says it is off with a ikaelelo, ne? No, that's nice. Siunelo,
It's going to fall both accounts.
it's going to affect both account, positive or negative?
Positive. Positive.
Correct. Correct. We are going to say plus 375 on the debtors control, and then we go to M-Toller, and then we are going to say plus 375. And then Roman 3, no entry was made for invoice issued to P. Gavenda 1.3. Any school is going to affect what? Ikaelelo, I also see Piello as well, but let me start with Ikaelelo, and then Piello will also come, and then Samuel Johnson will be the third one. So let's start with Piello.
We must add the money to the both accounts. P Gavenda, we must add 1,300 to both accounts.
So meaning 1.3 will be added on both. Ikaelelo, do you agree or disagree? Ikaelelo?
Agree, sir.
You agree. And then Samuel Johnson, you agree or disagree? Samuel Johnson, do you agree or disagree? Siunelo, do you agree or disagree? Okay, thank you, Samuel Johnson. Siunelo, do you agree or disagree? All right, okay, that's correct. 1.3 will be added on both, plus 1.3 on the debtors control, and then we go to P. Gavenda, and then we say plus 1.3 to his individual account. And then Roman 4, an amount of 13,200 received from P. Petty was correctly recorded in the cash receipt journal, but was posted as 12,300 to the debtors ledger account of P. Petty. Any school? Where do we go? Kgatelo pele, I see your hand. Siunelo, I see your hand, but we will start with Kgatelo pele. It is going to affect both or debtors control or debtors list. Kgatelo pele. All right, Siunelo, you can go.
It falls in debtors list only.
Debtors list only. Siunelo says debtors list only. Anyone who disagree with Siunelo? Samuel Johnson, I see your hand. Do you disagree with Siunelo or do you agree? You agree with Siunelo. Thank you so much. Siunelo, can you tell us, are we going to add or subtract? Piello, I also
Subtract.
we are going to subtract on the debtors list. Piello, do you agree with Siunelo?
We agree.
All right, thank you so much. I just want to check with Ikaelelo to say with you guys, which amount are we going to subtract? 13,200, 12,300, or the difference between the two? Siunelo, can you tell us?
We're going to subtract the difference, which is
We are going to
900.
subtract the difference, which is how much?
900.
So 13,200 minus 12,300, which will add up to 900. Now we agree that on the debtors control, it will be 0, as we agreed, no change again. And then now we go to P petty, and then we minus 900. That is correct. And then the next one, let's remove again a check to replace it with EFT. It says an EFT for 3050. Okay, I see a hand, Piello. You can carry on with your question if you have any. Piello, carry on with your question before we go to Roman 5. Or in the absence of that question. All right.
You may
And
continue.
come again.
I'm saying you must continue.
Oh, thank you so much.
No question.
And EFT, Roman 5 and EFT for 3050 received from P petty was not recorded in the cash receipt journal. Any school where Roman 5 goes? Any school? I see Piello, secondary school. You can carry on with your question. I mean, with your answer, sorry.
We must add the money on both accounts, the debtors and the list.
So the money must be added on both. Anyone who disagrees?
No, we must amend, sorry, sir, we must subtract
On both.
on both, yes.
Anyone who disagree? Any school who disagree with Piello? I agree. The money must be subtracted on both. So we are going to say minus 3,050 on the debtors control, and then we are also going to say minus 3,050 again on P petty. Why are we minusing on both? Because remember they said this information was not recorded in the journal. If it was not recorded in the journal, there is no way it can be posted to the ledger accounts. Remember, debtors list represent the debtors ledger, while debtors control represent the general ledger. So it means if it's not recorded on the journal, it cannot be posted to the ledger account. That is absolutely correct. And then the last Roman, merchandise return by A. Brent 1,100 was posted to the wrong side of his account in the debtors ledger. Any school? Any school? PLO secondary school? I see you. Can you carry on with your answer?
We must take the money out on both accounts. We must subtract it. We must subtract the money by 1,100. Both. We must multiply it first, then we minus it on both accounts.
PLO says 1,100 must be subtracted on both accounts. Who disagree with PLO? Secondary school? Anyone who disagree with PLO?
We disagree, sir.
Siunelo disagree. Which account will be affected? Siunelo?
Debtors list only, and we're going to double the money.
You're going to subtract the amount twice, in other words.
Yes, yes.
Then
Can you
minus
explain, Sunelo, because you are 100% correct, but can you explain why are we not supposed to go to a debtors control? Why do we only have to go to debtors list?
Because the transaction says the amount was posted to the wrong side of his account in the debtors ledger. So we have to put the money on the debtors list only.
Correct. Remember, guys, I explained earlier to say once it says a debtor's ledger, remember on the debtor's ledger, we normally have a specific debtor. So a debtor's ledger, it is more or less the same as the debtor's list, because for us to prepare the debtor's list, we must go to the debtor's ledger and take all the balances there and prepare our debtor's list. So therefore, under debtors control, it will be 0. There won't be any effect because the error has only been done on the individual account. And then here it says the amount must be subtracted. As Unelo says, the amount is going to be subtracted, while Pierlo says the amount must be added. The correct answer, guys, remember what is return. Return means minus. But this person we were supposed to minus 1,100. But when we do the entry, we went to the wrong side. So the opposite of minus is plus. So it means they have added by mistake. Now to correct the error, we have to go and subtract. But how many times are we going to subtract the amount? Now the amount must be subtracted twice, because the first amount or the first minus, we are correcting the error that was made. We are canceling this addition. And then the second minus, we are now doing the correct entry, which was supposed to be a return. I think now it's clear to PLO Secondary School. I think they corrected themselves, if I'm not mistaken. And then now, guys, that was our last adjustment. I would love you guys now to start getting the correct balance for debtors control. So we are still going to start with the balance that was incorrect. And then the one that are negative, we subtract. The one that are positive, we add. And then when we add them and subtract all the other amounts, we will be left with 18,775. Any school that disagree with the balance? Any school that disagree with the balance? So we are all happy. And then now we go to a debtors list. On the debtors list, we have PPT. The balance will have to be 1150. Remember, if you disagree with the totals, I will see by a show of hands so that we can be able to verify or correct them. And then for MTOLA, the balance must be 8775. And then for P Gavenda, the balance must be a negative 250. Remember, in accounting, we can still use brackets as a negative sign. There is nothing wrong with that. It's either you use a bracket or you use a minus sign. So I was using a bracket here as a reminder because maybe some of you in your different schools, you are using a bracket. Now I'm confusing you with the sign. So it doesn't matter. Bracket still means minus to us as accounting people. And then the last one is going to be 9,100. And then now that we have all the balances, it means now we can calculate the correct total of the debtors list, which will add up to 18,775. And then anyone who still have questions, I will open this moment for questions on our debtors reconciliation. Any school, by show of hands? I'm waiting for any questions on the debtors reconciliation. If there's still clarity that is needed by you guys. In the absence of any, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for attending. Remember that whatever we have covered today, you are writing it on the 4th of June. That is going to be a topic of paper 2. So remember, like I said to you, we have 3 reconciliations. So the first one, we do it in grade 10, which is debtors reconciliation, which is what we have covered today. The second one is the creditors reconciliation, and then that we do in grade 11. And then we also do it in grade 12. And then the last one will be bank reconciliation, which we also introduce in grade 11 and repeat it in grade 12. So today, I hope you've learned so much. And then secondly, you also learn about the debtors age analysis. Remember, on the debtors age analysis, we must be able to identify the problems, and then we must also show the figures, and we must also come up with the strategies, the solutions on how do we control our debtors. So by so saying, I would like to say thank you so much. This is Mr. Nyaile again from Hasland Secondary School, and I wish you nothing but the best on your June examination. Bye, guys.